in as fine a train your ladyship could wish. In the common course of things, I think it must reach Miss Clegget's ears within 4 and 20 hours, and then, you know, the business is as good as done.
Why, truly, Mrs. Clegget has a very pretty talent and a great deal of industry. But her manners grow.
Tis very true. She generally designs well, has a free tongue, but her colouring is too dark, and her outline often extravagant. She wants a delicacy of tint and mellowness of sneer, which distinguish your ladyship's scandal.
You are partial.
Oh, not in the least. Everybody allows that Lady Sneerwell can do more with a word or a look than many can do with the most, even when they happen to have the truth on their side. To support it.
Yes, my dear Snake, and I'm no hypocrite to deny the satisfaction I reap from the success of my efforts. Wounded myself in the early part of my life by the envenomed tongue of slander, I confess I've since known no pleasure equal to reducing others to the level of my own reputation.
No, nothing can be more natural, but this one affair in which you have lately employed me, wherein I confess I'm at a loss to get your motives.
I can see if you mean with respect to my neighbour, Sir Peter Teasler and his family.
Oh, I do. You two young man to whom Sir Peter has acted as a kind of guardian since their father's death. The eldest possessing the most amiable character and universally well spoken of. The youngest the most dissipated and extravagant young fellow in the kingdom without friends or character. The former an avowed admirer of your ladyship's and apparently your favourite. Now, in the face of these circumstances, it is utterly unaccountable to me why you, the widow of a city knight, with a good jointure, should not close with the passions of a man of such character and expectation as Mr. Surface, and more. So why you should be so uncommonly earnest to destroy the mutual attachment subsisting between his brother Charles and Maria?
Then at once, to unravel this mystery, I must inform you that love has no share whatever in the intercourse between Mr. Surface and you.
No!
His real attachment is to Maria, or my fortune. But finding his brother a favoured rival, he has been obliged to mask his pretensions and profit by my own assistance.
Yet still I'm more puzzled why you should interest yourself in his success.
Heavens, how dull you are! Cannot you surmise the weakness which I hitherto through shame have concealed even from you? Must I confess that Charles, that libertine, that extravagant, that bankrupt unfortunate reputation, that he it is for whom I am thus anxious and malicious, and to gain whom I would sacrifice everything?
No, indeed. Your conduct appears consistent, but how came you and Mr. Surface so confidential?
For our mutual interest. I have found one a long time since. I know him to be artful, selfish, malicious, in short, sentimental, while with Sir Peter, and indeed with all his acquaintance, he passes for a youthful miracle of prudence, good sense, and benevolence.
Oh yes, yet Sir Peter vows he has not his equal in England, and above all, he praises him as a man of sentiment.
True, and with the existence of the sentiment and hypocrisy, he has brought Sir Peter entirely into his interest with regard to Maria. While poor Charles has no friend in the house, though I fear he has a powerful one in Maria's heart, against whom we must direct our schemes. Mr. Surface, join us. Generally calls about this time, I do wonder if people are giving him tea for a lover.
My dear Lady Sneerwell, how do you do today? Mr. Snake, you're most to be here.
Snake has just been rallying me in our mutual attachment, but I have informed him of our real views. You know how useful he's been to us, and believe me, the confidence is not ill-placed.
Madam, it is impossible for me to suspect a man of Mr. Snake's sensibility and discernment.
Well, no compliments now, but tell me when you last saw your mistress, Maria, or what is more material to me, your brother.
I haven't seen either since I left you, but I can inform you that they never meet. Some of your stories have taken a good effect on
My dear Snake, the merit of this belongs to you. But do your brother's distresses increase?
Every hour. I am told he's had another execution in the house yesterday. In short, his dissipation and extravagance exceed anything I've ever heard of.
Poor Charles.
True, madam, notwithstanding his vices. One can't help feeling for him. Poor Charles. I'm sure I wish it were in my power to be of any essential service to him, for the man who does not share the distresses of a brother, even though merited by his own misconduct, deserves...
Oh, love, you're going to be moral and forget that you are among friends.
Yeah, that's true. I keep that sentiment till I see Sir Peter. However, it is certainly a charity to rescue Maria from such a liberty, who, if he is to be reclaimed, can be so only by a person of your ladyship's superior accomplishments and understanding. I believe Lady Snee will his company coming. I go and copy the letter I mentioned to you. Mr. Surface, you're most obedient. Sir, you're very devoted. Ah, Maria.
Maria, my dear, how do you do? What's the matter?
Oh, there's that disagreeable lover of mine, Sir Benjamin Backpack. He just called my gardens with his odious uncle Crabtree. So I set out and ran hither to avoid them.
Is that all?
If my brother Charles had been of the party, madam, perhaps you would not have been so much alarmed?
Nay, now, Yossi dear, for I dare swear the truth of the matter is Maria heard you were here. But, my dear, what has Sir Benjamin done that you should avoid him?
Oh, he has done nothing but this for what he said. His conversation is a perpetual libel on all his acquaintance.
Aye, and the worst of it is, there is no advantage in not knowing him, for he'll abuse a stranger just as soon as his best friend, and his uncle is as bad.
Nay, but we should make allowance. Sir Benjamin is a wit and a poet.
For my part, I own, madam, wit loses his respect with me when I see it in company with malice. What do you think, Mr. Surface?
Certainly, madam, to smile at the jest which plants a thorn in another's breast is to become a principal in the mischief.
There is no possibility of being witty without a little ill nature. The malice of a good thing is the barb that makes it stick. What's your opinion, Mr. Surface?
To be sure, madam, that conversation where the spirit of raillery is suppressed will ever appear tedious and insipid.
Well, I'll not debate how far scandal may be allowable, but in a man, I'm sure it is always contemptible. We have pride, envy, rivalship, and 1,000 motives to depreciate each other. But the male Slavinger must have the cowardice of a woman before he can traduce one.
Madam, das ist kindness below, and if your ladyship's at leisure, with my carriage.
Back at you walking. Now, Maria, here comes a character to your taste. For though Mrs. Canday is a little talkative, everybody allows her to be the best-natured and best sort of woman.
Yet, with a very gross affectation and good nature and benevolence, she does more mischief than the direct malice of old Crabtree.
Our faith, that's true, Lady Sneerwell. Whenever I hear the current running against the characters of my friends, I never think them in such a danger as when Candour undertakes their defence.
Shh! There she is.
Ah, my dear Lady Sneerwell, how have you been this century? Mr. Surface, what news do you hear? Though indeed it is no matter, for I think one hears nothing else but scandal.
Just so indeed, madam.
Ah, Maria, child. Mwah, mwah. What? Is the whole affair off between you and Charles? His extravagance, I presume. The entire town talks of nothing else.
I'm very sorry, madam. The town has so little to do.
True, child, true, but there's no stopping people's tongues. I own I was heard to hear, as I indeed was to learn from the same quarter, that your guardians, Sir Peter and Lady Teazle, have not agreed lately as well as could be wished.
'Tis strange and impertinent for people to beat themselves so.
Oh, very true, child, very true. But people will talk, there's no preventing it. Why, it was but yesterday I was told that Mrs. Gadibout had eloped with Sir Philippi Flirt. But Lord, there's no minding what one hears, though to be sure I had it from very good authority.
Such reports are highly scandalous.
So they are, child, shameful, shameful. But the world is so censorious, no character escapes. Lord, now, who would have suspected your friend Miss Prim of an indiscretion? Yet such is the ill nature of people that they say her uncle stopped her last week just as she was stepping into the York diligence with her dancing master.
I'll answer for it. There are no grounds for the report.
No foundation in the world, I dare swear. No more probably than in the story circulated last month of Mrs. Festino's affair with Colonel Cassino, though to be sure that matter was never rightly cleared up.
The license of invention some people take is monstrous indeed.
'Tis so, but in my opinion, those who report such things are equally culpable.
To be sure they are, child. Tale bearers are just as bad as the tale makers. 'Tis an old observation and a very true one. But what's to be done, as I said before, people will talk, there's no preventing it. Today Mrs. Cleckett assured me that Mr. and Mrs. Honeymoon were at last become a man and wife like the rest of their acquaintance. She likewise hinted that a certain widow in the next street had got rid of her dropsy and recovered her shape in a most surprising manner. At the same time, Miss Tattle, who was by, affirmed that Lord Buffalo had discovered his lady at a house of no extraordinary fame, and that Sir Harry Bouquet and Tom Saunter were to measure swords on a similar provocation. But, Lord, do you think I would report such things? No, no, no. Tale bearers, as I said before, are just as bad as the tale makers.
Miss Kender, everybody had your forbearance and good nature.
I must confess, Mr. Surface, I cannot bear to hear people attack behind their backs, and when ugly circumstances come out against your acquaintance, I own I always love to think the best. By the by, I hope it's not true that your brother's absolutely ruined.
I'm afraid his circumstances are very bad indeed, madam.
Yeah, I heard so, but you must tell him to keep up his spirits. Everybody almost is in the same way. Lord Spindle, Sir Thomas Flint, Captain Quince, and Mr. Nickage, all up I hear within this week. So if Charles is undone, he'll find half his acquaintance ruined too, and that, as you know, is a consolation.
Doubtless, madam, a very great one.
Mr. Crabtree and Sir Benjamin backbite.
Ah, so Maria, you see your lover pursues you. Positively, you shan't escape.
Lady Sneerwell, I kiss your hand. Miss Fender, I don't believe you are acquainted with my nephew, Sir Benjamin Backbite. Man, he has a pretty wit and is a pretty poet too. Is he, Lady Sneerwell?
Oh, fie, uncle.
I wonder, Sir Benjamin, you never publish anything.
To say truth, ma'am, 'tis very vulgar to print. As my little productions are mostly satires and lampoons on particular people, I find they circulate more by giving copies in confidence to the friends of the parties. However, I have some love elegies, which, when favoured with this lady's smiles, I mean to give to public.
For heavens. Ma'am, they'll immortalize you. But ladies, that's true. Have you heard the news?
What? Sir, do you mean the report?
No, that's not it. Miss Nicely is going to be married to her own footman.
Impossible.
Ask Sir Benjamin.
It's very true, ma'am. Everything is fixed and the wedding livery is bespoke.
Yes, and they do say there are pressing reasons for it.
Why? I've heard something of this before. It can't be, and I wonder anyone should believe such a story of so prudent a lady as Miss Nicely.
Oh, Lord, ma'am, that's the very reason 'twas believed at once. She was always so cautious and reserved that everybody was sure there was some reason for it at bottom.
Why, to be sure, a tale of scandal is as fatal to the credit of a prudent lady of her stamp as a fever is generally to those of the strongest constitution. However, there is this sickly and puny reputation that is always ailing, yet will outlive the robuster characters of 100 prudes.
True, madam. There are valetudinarians in reputation as well as constitution, who, being conscious of their weak part, avoid the least breath of air and supply their want of stamina by care and circumspection.
Well, this may all very well be a mistake. You know, Sir Benjamin, very trifling circumstances often give rise to the most injurious tales.
That they do. I'll be sorry. Did you ever hear how Miss Piper came to lose her character last summer at Tunbridge? And her brother too. Sir Benjamin, do you know that?
Oh, to be sure, the most whimsical circumstance.
How was it, pray?
Well, one evening at the Pontus Assembly, the conversation had to turn on the difficulty of breeding Nova Scotia sheep in this country. Says a young lady in company, I have known instances of it, for Miss Letitia Piper, a first cousin of mine, had a Nova Scotia sheep that produced her twins. What? Cried the Lady Dowager Dundizzy, who, you know, is as deaf as a post. Has Miss Piper had twins? This mistake, as you may imagine, threw the whole company into a fit of laughter. However, it was the next morning everywhere reported and in a few days believed by the whole town that Miss Letitia Piper had actually been brought to bed of a fine boy and a girl, and in less than a week there was someone who could name the father in the farmhouse where the babies were put out to nurse.
Strange indeed.
Matter of fact, I assure you. Hold up, Mrs. Surface. Pray, is it true that your Uncle Sir Oliver is coming home?
Not that I know of, indeed, sir.
He has been in the East Indies a long time. You can scarcely remember him, I believe. It's a comfort whenever he returns to hear how your brother has gone on.
Charles has been imprudent, sir, to be sure, but I hope no busy people have already prejudiced Sir Oliver against him. He may reform.
To be sure he may. For my part, I never believed him to be so utterly void of principle as people say, and though he has lost all his friends, I am told nobody is better spoken of by the Jews.
That's true. Egad, nephew, I hear he pays as many annuities as the Irish tontine, and that whenever he's sick, their prayers for the recovery of his health. in all the synagogues.
This may be entertainment to you, gentlemen, but you pay very little regard to the feelings of a brother.
The malice is intolerable. Lady Sewell, I must wish you good morning. I'm not very well.
Oh dear, she changes colour very much.
Do Mrs. Cantor follow her? She may want assistance.
That I will with all my soul, ma'am. Poor child, who knows what her situation may be.
It was nothing but that she couldn't bear to hear Charles reflected on, notwithstanding the difference.
The young lady's penchant is obvious.
But Benjamin, you must not let go the pursuit for that. Follow her, put her to good humor, repeat her some of your own verses. Come, I'll assist.
I doubt reflections are farther engaged than we imagine. But we're planning out to be here this evening, so you may as well dine where you are, and we shall have an opportunity to observe you farther. In the meantime, I'll go and put Mistress and you shall spend